Hi, my name is Jay Martin, and the other night I played a Napoleon game with somebody who knew who I was again, and her name was Amber. She was really nice when we got to chatting, and she seemed really interested in a lot of the old Huntsman guys, which was kind of a good nostalgia kick. Seemed pretty convinced that Riskard was the best player of all time, which is kind of fun. Shout out to you, Riss, and congratulations to you, my good friend. And and we were chatting. And she was like, I started doing the YouTube thing myself, and would you mind watching one of my videos and maybe giving me some tips or feedback or coaching or whatnot on my micro? And I was like, okay. So I checked her YouTube channel out, and it was really awkward for me because watching the video, I couldn't move the camera around. And finally, I just said, I tell you what, why don't you just send me one of your replays, and then I can watch it in game, and maybe at the same time give you a plug for your channel. So this is Amber playing, everybody. She's got the underdog matchup. She's Dutch against the French. And I'll put a link to her YouTube channel in the comments. By all means, give her a click and subscribe, give her a thumbs up or whatever it is you kids do on the YouTubes these days. So this is her game, and interesting army. She's got just 9 line infantry and then 10 cav and a general, and it's surprisingly relevant because her opponent has got the French 5 shooter cav, which we talked about in the previous video, and people were like, God, I hate that army so much. I also hate that army so much. It's worth pointing out, you should know, there's an old guard there, an old guard there. So there's going to be 2 old guard on this flank, and she's moving another old guard somewhere over here to this flank. So there's going to be 2 old guard over there that might inform what she's doing a little bit. And it's worth pointing out that Amber is very, very good at Napoleon. In fact, she's most likely better than I am. And so when it comes to watching and giving feedback on her game, one tends to run into the really nitpicky stuff because generally she's doing everything that you should do. And this game will kind of be evidence of that. So we might delve into the nitpickiness enough to find some points where her game could be improved. And again, she's probably a better player than I am. And we're back into that whole scenario where I'm better at talking about the game than I am actually playing it. So it seems pretty evident that she doesn't want to fight on the flank with the 2 old guard. And also, I'm not going to talk too much about what the French player does or should be doing, but or not. But I'm going to slip out of that a little bit, I think. All right, so Amber's got all this cav. And the French army is... yeah, let's resume. Okay, so the French army is really, actually, this is a perfect example because there's like 5 volts, 3 old guard, 4 Swiss, 3 militia, 5 shooter cav. This is like the totally stereotypical shooter cav build that you'll see. And so it seems as though she wants to start her attack on the left. I'm a little dismayed by the lack of aggression from the French player, to be perfectly honest. We don't need to watch this. She makes a little move to maybe shoot at the Volts. The Volts kite. There's a slight thing here. She feints a cav charge. It's worth making a note that I don't recommend diagonal cav charges like this because she's targeting that Volt there. But if they did that, they would walk across a volley from the Swiss, which would, shoot the heck out of her. So she wisely pulls this attack back. And then we pull back a little bit. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And then the attack starts. And the attack starts... She's so aggressive. I love this. I don't think I'd even make this play, but she starts the attack with 1 line and 2 cav. 1 cav's targeting here at the Swiss. Second is targeting at the shooter cav. And then the opponent replies with charging her back. French player misses a square here. This is actually going to become kind of a big deal. And then she's going to hit the square, but just at the last second. There they go. just at the last second. Meanwhile, her other two units are moving forward. Worth noting, there are stakes there. Okay. So what happens, and this is how you create big advantage, is she changes target for her cav into this unit. And it's going to happen right about there. So see the unit tag says under missile attack, semicolon, fighting in melee. What happens is when any part of your unit is in melee fighting, like this horse guy attacking that foot guy, it means that your entire unit stops shooting. Like these idiots over here, even though they're not actually engaged in melee with that horse right there, these guys aren't going to shoot. So the way that she breaks this flank, both her units are in square to fend off the horse, that's fine, is she gets in a situation where her one cav unit is got two infantry units and, for bonus measure, a random cav unit. None of these guys are shooting, right? So these units are exceptionally vulnerable. And as a side note, when you're in melee, you can't square. So it's a really good time for the Dutch Heavy Cav to come on crashing through. I do want to make the argument that there's a little bit of brilliance in the build that she brought to this, because while the Netherlands sucks, we say it sucks because its infantry really sucks, but the Dutch Cav is actually really good. So if you're going to bring Dutch and figure out how to make 10 Cav work, then maybe that's the way to do it. Just side note on our army build. Thing I want to point out is, so these are the two cav that she initially charged, one at 11, one at 14. It's time to pull these units back. And I'm always preaching this. I'm always preaching save your cav. I never do it myself. But, you know, the tip right here would be, we really could have saved those two cav units. And in fact, it's going to be relevant because if you watch, that Volt is routing at 42. This Volt is definitely going to come back. So what I would have done is save those two depleted cav units and, you know, pulled them back here or sent them up there to chase that routing Volt unit. Going to become relevant. Okay, another big picture thing I want to talk about. So we've done a really good job of routing the left, right? We got these two landing units here. This one she is moving, which is good. But what's going to happen now is the French is going to have to make some kind of movement here to cover their loss. Now, if she doesn't want to fight with the old guard up on the right, that's fine. But I do think it's time to think about getting these four units involved. Either A, hopefully to pin these units down so they can't contribute to the defense to the left, which then she'll be able to continue there. Or B, they do retreat and we get some kind of L shape in their line, at which point we'd have got a head start on the movement we'd wanted these units to make anyway. So it's time to start thinking about moving these units. Right, so the French has to pull back. They're already repositioning this Swiss unit here. French is pulling back. Notice this is the French pulling the remainder of their cav over to this section of the field. There was another cav unit she could have pulled out, by the way. You know, and then I guess if you want to be, you know, super weird about it, you got to say, now that the cav is gone from over here, maybe you think about attacking this direction. I'm a big proponent of, in 1v1 grassy games, of being active all over the field all the time to overload your opponent's micro. So this, you know, this could go either way, but I'd think about making an attack there. Is what I think about. But what she's got to figure out right now is what impact. Now there's 3 shooter cav in this portion of the field, and she seems to want to, you know, take a breather, think about it. And France moves a couple impulsively out this direction. Now again, This is the whole attack your opponent when they're moving thing. If we're going to use the carabiner to attack the Shir Cheval, they should already be moving. Like the charge order should be given a couple seconds ago. Instead, what's going to happen is she's going to walk her carabiner back, shoot her cav, are going to get good position. They're going to get their volley out, and then kind of now we attack. What's going to happen is the carabiner is going to take two volleys, be down to 32 before it makes its hit. We could have been a little more aggressive and attacked the cav while they were still in motion, as this means, she gets in the square. That's the right play. Okay, another thing happens. And I love the positioning. Her cav are real close up to her line, and they're just ready to go, right? The best time to attack infantry are when they're moving. That's like free because obviously they can't shoot back. So if we have the cav here and we see these infantry moving up here, I would attack as soon as you saw these movements start moving. Now, of course, she's juggling a lot of stuff. She probably didn't see that, but you could make the argument that this cav could have made their attack a little bit sooner. And so let's watch what happens. So two cav charges happen. The first one's going to go after the unguarded Volt, which is totally the right move. The second one is going to come after the Swiss here. I wouldn't have done that. I would have charged the old guard just for effect. I don't really care about the Swiss that much. What I would have loved to have done is just get some extra casualties onto the old guard, and she might have made it. No, maybe, probably not, because the old guard got the volley off. But I would much rather have, if I'm going to shoot my Hussar that's going to get shot at by an old guard anyway, I'd rather have it charging the old guard to get some casualties on the old guard. Right, so the Hussar does, route there, and the Hussar is going to continue the charge into the militia. But I feel like this Hussar is just going to route really early. Like, it just doesn't get a ton of value out of it, just the way it turns out. Now, this Hussar, on the other hand, gets a ton of value because it goes into Volt A. She's going to continue charging to Volt B. We should be in play here. Right, so this Hussar is already routed. It only got 100 casualties on the militia. I just feel like that unit, not a lot happened. So, but here she, rips up Volt A little bit, gets into Volt B. And and these two units are finally moving. Like, remember these two units that were up here that should have been moving a few minutes ago? They're finally moving, so that's good. And then Hussar B goes in, gets Volt A again, and then it's going to grab a hit into the side of the old guard, which is useful because she's going to get the fighting in melee, and the old guard are going to shoot back, which is really useful. These are the shooter cav that she's pulled back from there. This is a really, really good position from her. These two line units should be very profitable, assuming they move up just a little bit. Now here comes another cav charge. This one I thought was really weird because if you look at where this unit's, I can't tell what unit this carabiner is charging. Like, it's almost as if she gave it a move order to back here or something, because it comes right through the gap between this and this. So I'm not really sure what that was about. That poor militia. And then what is really sexy is the charge of the heavy cav into the back of the old guard right here is just great. Old guard routes. All right. So now what do we got? We don't have an old guard anymore. There's a militia that's probably going to die pretty quick. There's two shooter cav, both at half strength. They aren't going to accomplish a whole lot. And then there's a Volt. She's going to do a tactic that I really approve of here in a second. That militia's not going to help you very much. She moves up really close to the Volts. The reason this is smart is that the strength of the Volt unit is they disperse a lot, so they're hard to hit. they're hard to kill. The counter to that is you just move your lineup very, very close, and you're going to watch. If I hover over the unit card here, she's going to get a lot of casualties on this unit. And she goes even closer. Yeah, so a real good trick to fighting against Volts is to move up very closely to them. And that way, you increase the accuracy of your soldiers, and you can actually deal casualties. And this dude actually tries running away. It's not going to save you. Not going to save you. Yeah, and so, yeah, pretty successful. They get 12 casualties and rout the unit with the volley. Good way to deal with Volts. And so at this point, the game is over. She's carried the left side of the flank. There's just a militia left there. She's carried the left side of the flank with enough remaining units, and she's kind of at parity right here, that once these units decide to fight, if I had to make a comment on the French player, like, these units never moved. These units never moved. If you have Old Guard, you have to give them a shot at deciding the battle when the battle is in flux, and that clearly didn't happen. So that was, kind of the end of the game. At this point, it's just academic. She's got more people. She's got enough Old Guard, got enough Cav left to make the Old Guard's job really rough, and she can shoot it out. I guess there is the potential for one of, my famous a single Old Guard charges and routs your whole army kind of deal. But her general's alive. She's done that really well. And there you go. And that is the game. So, my thoughts, I guess if I had to leave some constructive criticism, parting tips, let's try to save those depleted Cav units. Think about moving on multiple fronts of the field at the same time. Be a little proactive. Predict your opponent's units. Like, I think a really telling point. I recorded the audio for this video like 4 times, so I might not have mentioned this in this version of it. But there was a very important part where the 2 line units in the center should have moved down while the French player was reorienting north-south on the left. And predicting movements of your opponent like that and getting a jump start in the movement of your own line, it is important and can give you a big winning edge. So I'd encourage that also. And when you watch your replays, you can totally see those. Like, you can tell, like, oh, due to this strategic, this guy's going to have to withdraw, here. So if that happens, I should predict that and be moving my line unit, there. That's kind of thing you can think about also. But anyway, I thought it was a really clean game. Amber, thanks for sending me the replay. I hope you have success with your YouTube efforts. Again, go give her a thumbs up or whatnot. And it was just kind of good to get a solid game of Napoleon. My name is Jay Martin. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.